Hello, sweet friends. Welcome to week 11 of a 52-week walk with God. So, I just want to take a little bit of moment and share with you where I was last week and just see if maybe you too can relate. Do you ever have a moment in your life or moments in your life where you are waiting? You are waiting for God to do something. And sometimes, I don't think I'm alone in this, but sometimes we feel like we've really heard a word from God, and yet it's a waiting, it's a waiting, it's a waiting. And I don't know about you, but in that moment, I wish I were more patient. I wish I could believe all that I really know to be true without quaking or wavering. But I had a couple of 2 weeks where I was just waiting. I felt like the word or the answer had come, and yet nothing was budging. It was as if there was a block. And I don't know what it really was, but it was definitely a waiting. And so I'm so glad that he spoke through his word before the answer came. Because remember, we talked about a few days ago, it is when we believe that we see. It is not seeing that we believe. We want to be the kind of people that say faith comes by hearing, hearing by the word of God, and we walk by faith and not by sight. So it had been this place I could tell in my spirit I was unsettled because I felt like the answer should have come and I was still waiting. But there was a day when I was in Psalms and there was a word, just a word. And this is how I think God often speaks to us. A word came, and it was in Psalms 33, verse 9. And it said, He spoke, and it came to be. And I'm sure you've had these moments where a word kind of pops off the page and it's not full yet, but you sense that God is doing something with that word. That's what I had sensed. It was on a Thursday that I read the first part of this verse where it says, He spoke and it came to be. And I remember thinking, it's always that way. Like if we were to go back to Genesis, He spoke and it came to be. And we started this year off with this thought. I shared it with you that I read from John Stark, and it has really challenged me this year that every time we open this precious word, may it be as if it was his very word to us. If you could see my journal, there are many days that the journal begins with, as if it were your very word to me. And so on this Thursday, I sensed this stirring around this word he spoke, and it came to be. But it wasn't fully birthed yet in my spirit. But then on Friday, the commentary that I'm reading, it's with Warren Wiersbe, and this one's just called Prayer, Praise, and Promises. It's one of the many that I'm using this year, but it was on Friday. It was on Friday that it came full, and it wasn't until Saturday that I got my answer. So I'm so glad that in my spirit I was able to believe before I saw the victory. But what he says here, I'm going to put my reading glasses on because this is just too good to not share with you guys. So the title of this lesson, first of all, tell me if this just doesn't resonate with you. No carbon copy. No carbon copy. There is not one of us in the imagination of God that he has made exactly alike. There's no carbon copy. So when I read that, I was like, I'm onto something. He spoke and it came to be, and everything was different. And so what he says here is he said, he spoke and it was done. And then he says, this shows the power of his word. And then he takes time to remind us that it's when we're in this word that we become in tune with what God is doing in the world. Your world, my world, the world at large. It's why we stay in this word. This word leads us to his will and his way and what he is doing in the world. So he says, now let no one rob you of this beautiful truth. And this is what I want you to hear today in week 11. Let no one rob you of this beautiful truth that God has counsel for you. Now, where I was last Friday, I needed that good word. I needed to know that God had counsel just for me. And even as I say that, I am thinking of a number of dear friends who are right now standing in the gap. They're believing for something. And I so want them to hear, you know who you are, sweet friends of mine. I so want you to hear this. He has counsel that is just for you. And what the commentator pondered on and brought to light was this: just as he had counsel for David, just as he had counsel for Moses, just as he had counsel for Abraham, just as he had counsel for Joshua, just as he had counsel for Peter, for Paul, for all of the disciples, and many, many, many of the saints through the ages, so he has a counsel that is just for you. And this is what he said. He said, I want you to know this. If you study this psalm, Psalms 33, you're going to see that it says the plans of God comes from his very heart. And it's an individual counsel to you and to me. And this is what I wrote down here at the side. I wrote, it's Friday today. It's Friday in the year 2020-21. And this is the word I have waited for all week. I caught a glimmer of it yesterday when I read the words, he spoke and it came to be, verse 9. But here today, I feel his presence with me, just as if it was his very word to me at this exact moment. So now let me read you what he says, and I want you to hold on to this truth. He says, notice that the Lord's counsel comes from his heart. The counsel of the Lord stands forever and to all generations. The will of God doesn't come from a machine. Now, I love this. This was the part I absolutely loved, and I want you to hear. He doesn't photocopy one plan for every life and then fax it to all believers. I can think of a number of my friends right now. This is a good word for you. It's not that God wrote down, here's the plan for every believer's life. Now go photocopy it, angels, and let's send it out to everybody. Oh, no. Do not miss it. It is an individual counsel for you and for me. He says he does not photocopy one plan for everyone's life and then fax it to all believers. No, God's will comes from his heart, completely tailor-made for you. Oh, I hope you hear that good word today. Completely tailor-made for you. And his will lasts forever, unlike human plans. The will of God, I love this. The will of God is an expression of love for you. Don't be afraid of it. Build your life on the counsel of the Lord. Now, guys, I don't know about you, but I just cried because I realized that this precious word, if we were to open it every day and read it as if it was his very word to us, we're going to hear his counsel to us. I had been waiting and waiting because I had promise in my hand. And I felt like he said, it's coming to pass. Excuse me. Surely it is coming to pass. Let me grab my coffee real quick. Got a tickle in my throat. Surely it is coming to pass. And as I held on to that promise, it seemed like it wasn't going to happen. And I think the place that he took me to, and maybe it's for you as well, was I had to get to a place of complete surrender, to say, even if it does not come to pass the way I thought it would, I surrender it all to you, God. You are my Alpha and Omega. You are my beginning and end. You hold all the days of my life in your hands, and your plans are precious for me. I may not always understand them, but if I belong to you, you are writing a story through my life that can only be told through my life. It is the same for you today, sweet friend. So whether you're still in the waiting, I pray that every day when you open this word, you would open it and write at the top of your journal as if it were his very words to me at this exact moment. And the word this week was, he spoke and it came to be. I want you to hold on to those good words, that promise that you know in your heart he's given you, but you've not seen it yet. Every woman and man of God gets a word of counsel that is unique to them. And there is a waiting and a working out of that word. But as surely as the word came to those who have loved him in all the generations past, it will come to you. It will come to me. But I think he brings us through this place where we must believe it and yet at the same moment surrender it, to say, have your own will, have your own way, Lord. That old hymn, have thine own way, Lord, have thine own way, while I am waiting, yielded and still. I think that's where he wants to get all of us, to this place of trusting him while we're still believing. And know today that you're not a photocopy to God. There's not another one like you. And his counsel for you today is unique and precious and just for you. Now, that was a very good word for me last week, and I want to share it with you. I want to encourage you. Open that good word up. Let it be your counsel and know that it's from his heart. And he has a marvelous plan for your life. Even through the valleys and the lows, he is still working. This morning he said this, and this is where I'm going to end it with. He said, God's delays, this commentator I've been studying, are not his denials. It's just a not yet. The delays of God are not a denial, but simply a not yet. He's still working in you and in me. I hope that word encourages you today for week 11. Take care, my dear friends. I'll see you next week. I might pop on again this week, but I would definitely see you next Monday for week 12. May you all have a blessed week 11. And may you hear his word this week as if it were his only word to you, his direct counsel to you. Love you all, and I'll see you next week. Bye, sweet friends.